I never thought my life would fall apart in a courtroom, but here I was, sitting at a wooden table that felt like it might swallow me whole. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I tried to hide them in my lap, but it didn't help. Nothing helped anymore. Judge Margaret Whitmore sat high above us, looking down through her reading glasses at papers that held my entire future. My lawyer, Benjamin Wright, sat beside me with his shoulders tight and his jaw clenched. That's how I knew things were bad. Really bad. Across the aisle, Gregory sat with his expensive lawyer, Vincent Palmer, my husband. No, my soon-to-be ex-husband. He looked so calm, so confident. He wore his best suit, the navy blue one I helped him pick out for his promotion last year. That felt like a lifetime ago now. He caught me staring and smiled. Not a kind smile. A cold, satisfied smile that made my stomach turn. I wanted to look away, but I couldn't. How did we get here? How did the man I loved, the man I married 8 years ago, become this stranger who wanted to destroy me? Judge Whitmore cleared her throat. Based on the evidence presented over the past 3 weeks, this court has serious concerns about Ms. Bennett's ability to provide a stable home environment for the minor child, Hannah Bennett. Each word hit me like a physical blow. I gripped the edge of the table so hard my knuckles turned white. Therefore, the judge continued, this court is prepared to grant full custody to Mr. Gregory Bennett with limited supervised visitation rights for Ms. Bennett. Additionally, regarding the division of marital assets, that's when everything stopped, or maybe time slowed down. I don't know. All I could think was that I was about to lose Hannah, my baby girl, my whole world. But wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. You need to understand how I ended up in that courtroom feeling like my life was ending. Let me go back to where this nightmare really started. 3 months earlier, I came home from the grocery store on a Tuesday evening. Tuesday was always grocery day. I had bags of food for the week, including ingredients for Gregory's favourite dinner, chicken parmesan. Hannah loved it too. I remember feeling happy, thinking about our family dinner together. I walked into the house calling out, "I'm home! Can someone help with the bags?" Nobody answered. That was strange. Gregory's car was in the driveway and Hannah should have been doing homework in her room. I set the bags on the kitchen counter and walked toward the living room. Gregory stood by the window with his back to me. Something about the way he stood made my chest feel tight. Gregory, is everything okay? Is Hannah all right? He turned around slowly. His face looked different. Cold. Empty. Audrey, we need to talk. Those 4 words. People always say those 4 words before something terrible happens. I felt my heart start beating faster. Okay, I said carefully. What's wrong? He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a folder. He walked toward me and held it out. I took it with trembling hands, not understanding what I was looking at. Legal papers, big words at the top, petition for divorce. I want a divorce, Gregory said flatly. Those are the papers. You'll need to get a lawyer. I stared at the papers, then at him, then back at the papers. My brain couldn't make sense of what was happening. What? Gregory, what are you talking about? We're fine. We're happy. We're not happy, he interrupted. I'm not happy. I haven't been happy for a long time. This marriage is over. But we never even talked about problems, I said, hearing my voice crack. If something's wrong, we can fix it. We can go to counselling. I don't want to fix it, he said. His voice was so cold, so final. I want out. Read the papers. I'll be staying somewhere else from now on. Where's Hannah? I asked suddenly, realising our daughter wasn't home. At my mother's house. I'll pick her up tomorrow for school. You took our daughter to your mother's without telling me? My voice rose. Gregory, what is happening? Please just talk to me. There's nothing to talk about. You'll hear from my lawyer soon. He picked up a suitcase I hadn't even noticed by the door. He'd packed before I got home. He'd planned this whole thing. Gregory, please! But he walked out. Just like that. 8 years of marriage, and he walked out without even explaining why. I stood in the living room holding those papers, listening to his car drive away, and I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. That was 3 months ago. That was the beginning of my nightmare. The next few days felt like I was underwater. Everything seemed slow and muffled. Gregory wouldn't answer my calls. When I went to pick up Hannah from school, she ran to me crying, asking why Daddy moved out. What could I say? I didn't understand it myself. Sometimes grown-ups need space, I told her, which was a lie. I had no idea what Gregory needed or why he left. But Mommy and Daddy both love you very much. Hannah cried herself to sleep for a week. I cried too after she was asleep so she wouldn't hear me. I kept thinking Gregory would come back, that he'd realize he made a mistake, that we'd sit down and talk like adults and figure things out. Maybe he was having some kind of breakdown. Maybe work stress got to him. Maybe it was a midlife crisis. But he didn't come back. 2 weeks after he left, someone knocked on the door. A man in a suit handed me more papers. "You've been served," he said, like he was telling me the weather. I took the thick envelope inside and sat at the kitchen table to read it. What I saw made no sense at all. Gregory wasn't just asking for a divorce. He was accusing me of being an unfit mother. The papers said I was emotionally unstable, that I spent money irresponsibly, that I created an unsafe home environment for Hannah. He was demanding full custody of our daughter. He wanted the house. He wanted the car. He wanted all our savings. I read those accusations over and over, my hands shaking so hard the papers rattled. None of it was true. Not a single word. I was a good mother. I loved Hannah more than anything in this world. I managed our money carefully. Our home was clean and safe and full of love. Where were these lies coming from? Why was Gregory doing this? I called every lawyer in the phone book until I found one who would see me that day. Benjamin Wright met me in his office that afternoon. I must have looked terrible because he got me a glass of water before we even started talking. I showed him the papers. He read them carefully, his expression getting more serious with each page. "Mrs. Bennet," he said finally, "your husband has built a comprehensive case against you. He claims to have evidence supporting these accusations. He's planning to bring in expert witnesses. This isn't just a divorce, this is a custody battle, and he's coming at you with everything he's got." "But none of it's true," I whispered. "He's lying. Why would he lie like this?" Benjamin looked at me with kind but worried eyes. "That's what we need to figure out, and we need to figure it out fast." That's when I started crying. Really crying. Big, ugly sobs that I couldn't control. Because I finally understood. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a breakdown. Gregory was deliberately trying to destroy me, and I had no idea why. Benjamin handed me tissues and waited patiently while I pulled myself together. When I could finally breathe again, he started asking questions. How long had we been married? Did Gregory ever show signs of anger or violence? Were there any previous arguments about money or parenting? I answered everything honestly. No, Gregory never hit me. We barely even argued. He seemed like a normal, loving husband until the day he handed me divorce papers. Our marriage wasn't perfect, but whose marriage is? I thought we were happy. "Mrs. Bennet, I need you to prepare yourself," Benjamin said carefully. "Cases like this, where one spouse makes serious accusations, they don't come out of nowhere. Your husband has been planning this for a while. The question is why and what evidence he thinks he has." I went home that day feeling sick to my stomach. I tried calling Gregory again. No answer. I sent him text messages begging him to explain what was happening. He never replied. The worst part was explaining things to Hannah. She was only 9 years old. "How do you tell your daughter that her father is trying to take her away from you?" I couldn't. I just told her that Daddy and I were having some disagreements, and lawyers were helping us figure things out. Hannah looked at me with those big, serious eyes. "Are you and Daddy getting divorced?" "Maybe, sweetheart. I don't know yet." "Is it because of me?" My heart shattered into a million pieces. No, baby. No. This has nothing to do with you. You're perfect. This is just grown-up stuff. She nodded slowly. But I could tell she didn't believe me. She went to her room and stayed there for the rest of the evening. I heard her talking quietly to herself, but when I checked on her, she was just holding her old tablet, the one with the cracked screen that barely worked anymore. 2 weeks passed. Then, one morning, I went to the ATM to withdraw money for groceries. The machine said insufficient funds. That couldn't be right. We had over $30,000 in our joint savings account, plus another $15,000 in checking. I drove straight to the bank. The manager pulled up our accounts on his computer, and the colour drained from his face. Mrs. Bennett, it appears there have been numerous large withdrawals over the past 4 months. The savings account has $800 left. Checking has $300. What? That's impossible. I didn't make those withdrawals. He showed me the transaction history. Withdrawals of $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 at a time. All made by Gregory. All transferred to accounts I'd never heard of. These are joint accounts, the manager said apologetically. Your husband had every legal right to withdraw that money, even if you didn't know about it. I sat in that bank office feeling like someone had punched me in the stomach. Gregory had been stealing our money for months, planning his escape while pretending everything was fine, coming home every night, kissing me hello, playing with Hannah, all while secretly draining everything we'd saved. I called Benjamin immediately. He swore under his breath when I told him. That's going to make everything harder, he said. You'll need money to fight this custody battle, and he just took it all. Can you borrow from family? My parents were dead. I had an elderly mother who lived on Social Security. I had some friends, but asking to borrow thousands of dollars, that felt impossible. I'll figure something out, I said, even though I had no idea how. The next few weeks were a blur of terror and stress. I borrowed $3,000 from my mother, which was probably her entire savings. I fell behind on the electric bill. The phone company threatened to shut off our service. Meanwhile, Gregory lived comfortably in a nice apartment downtown and hired Vincent Palmer, the most expensive divorce lawyer in the city. I saw Gregory only once during this time, when we both picked up Hannah from school. He looked at me like I was a stranger, like I meant nothing to him. Why are you doing this? I asked him quietly while Hannah got her backpack from his car. If you want a divorce, fine. But why are you lying about me? Why are you trying to take Hannah? He smiled that cold smile again. You'll find out in court. That's all he said. Then he drove away, leaving me standing in the school parking lot, feeling completely alone. The court date arrived faster than I expected. Benjamin prepared me as best he could, but I could see the worry in his eyes. We were outmatched. Gregory had money, a powerful lawyer, and somehow he had evidence against me. The first day of the trial, I wore my best dress and tried to look confident. Judge Whitmore seemed fair and serious. Maybe she would see through Gregory's lies. Maybe everything would be okay. Then Vincent Palmer stood up and started his opening statement. He painted a picture of me that I didn't even recognize. An unstable woman who spent money recklessly. A mother who neglected her daughter's emotional needs. Someone who created an unsafe, chaotic home environment. I wanted to scream that it wasn't true, but I just sat there, frozen, while Vincent destroyed me with words. The worst part came when he called his first witness. The petitioner calls Dr. Caroline Fletcher to the stand. A woman in an expensive suit walked to the witness stand. She was maybe 40 years old with perfect hair and a confident stride. I'd never seen her before in my life. After she was sworn in, Vincent asked her to state her credentials. She was a licensed child psychologist with 15 years of experience. She'd evaluated hundreds of families in custody cases. Dr. Fletcher, did you conduct a professional evaluation of the respondent, Audrey Bennett? Yes, I did, she said smoothly. My head snapped toward Benjamin. I never met her, I whispered urgently. She never evaluated me. I've never even seen her before. Benjamin wrote something on his legal pad and underlined it twice. Dr. Fletcher continued talking. She described meetings with me that never happened. She quoted things I never said. She talked about my apparent anxiety disorder and signs of depression that could affect parenting judgment. She made me sound like I was falling apart mentally. None of this is true, I whispered to Benjamin. How is she doing this? I don't know, he whispered back, but I'm going to find out. When it was Benjamin's turn to cross-examine Dr. Fletcher, he asked her to provide dates and times of these supposed evaluations. She had answers ready, dates, times, even notes from our sessions. She'd created an entire fake history of treating me. Mrs. Bennet denies ever meeting you, Benjamin said firmly. How do you explain that? Dr. Fletcher gave a sad, understanding smile. It's not uncommon for patients in denial to suppress memories of therapy sessions, especially when those sessions revealed uncomfortable truths about their mental state. The judge wrote something down. I could see she was believing this woman. This complete stranger was convincing everyone that I was mentally unstable and I couldn't prove she was lying. That first day of trial ended badly. Benjamin tried to encourage me, but I could hear the doubt in his voice. Over the next week, things got worse. Vincent presented bank statements showing large purchases I'd supposedly made. He showed credit card bills for expensive items. But those weren't my purchases. That spa day? Gregory booked it for our anniversary and insisted I go. That designer purse? He bought it for my birthday and told me I deserved it. But in court, Vincent made every purchase sound like evidence of my reckless spending. And I had no way to prove Gregory had approved everything. Then Vincent dropped a bomb that nearly destroyed me completely. Your Honour, I'd like to present evidence of inappropriate communications by the respondent. He showed the court text messages from my phone number to an unknown contact, messages about meeting up secretly, messages about hiding money. Messages that made me sound like I was having an affair and planning to steal marital assets. I stared at those messages on the courtroom screen, my mouth hanging open in shock. I never sent those, I said loudly enough that the judge looked at me sternly. Mrs. Bennet, you'll have your chance to testify, Judge Whitmore said. But how could I prove I didn't send messages that came from my own phone? Someone had faked them somehow, but I didn't understand technology well enough to explain how. Benjamin requested a technology expert to examine the phone records, but Judge Whitmore seemed impatient. She had a busy court calendar. She wanted to move things along. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, trying to understand how Gregory had manufactured all this fake evidence, the psychological evaluation. The text messages, the twisted version of our financial history. He'd built an elaborate trap and I'd walked right into it. Hannah came into my room around midnight. Mommy, why are you crying? I hadn't even realized I was. I quickly wiped my eyes. Just tired, baby. Come here. She climbed into bed with me and snuggled close. Is Daddy going to take me away from you? No, I lied. Everything's going to be fine. But I didn't believe my own words anymore. The trial continued for another full week, and each day felt like torture. I took the stand to defend myself, but Vincent Palmer tore into me like a wild animal. He asked me questions designed to make me look guilty, no matter how I answered. Mrs. Bennet, isn't it true that you often left your daughter alone while you worked on your catering business? No, that's not true. I worked from home specifically so I could be with Hannah. But you were distracted, weren't you? Focused on your little business instead of your daughter's needs. I balanced both. Hannah always came first. Yet, according to these school records, Hannah missed several parent-teacher conferences that you failed to attend. I felt my face get hot. Those were conferences Gregory was supposed to attend. We divided them up. He went to some, I went to others. Vincent smiled like he'd caught me in a lie. So, you admit you didn't attend all conferences. You allowed your husband to handle parenting responsibilities you should have taken care of. Everything I said got twisted. Every explanation became more evidence against me. By the time I stepped down from the witness stand, I felt completely defeated. Benjamin called character witnesses. My neighbour Mrs. Chen testified that I was a wonderful mother. My friend Patricia talked about how devoted I was to Hannah. But Vincent dismissed them all as biased friends who couldn't see the real me. Meanwhile, Gregory sat there looking like the perfect concerned father. He testified about his worries for Hannah's well-being. He talked about coming home to find the house messy and me stressed. He described arguments we'd had that I remembered completely differently. I tried to help her, Gregory said, his voice full of fake concern. I suggested she get therapy for her anxiety. I offered to take over more household responsibilities. But she refused help. She insisted she was fine, even when clearly she wasn't. I wanted to stand up and scream that he was lying, but I just sat there, watching my life get destroyed piece by piece. The worst day came during the second week. Vincent called Gregory back to the stand and presented a journal, a thick notebook filled with Gregory's handwriting. "Mr. Bennett, can you explain what this is?" "It's a journal I've been keeping for the past 14 months, Gregory said. "I started documenting concerning incidents with my wife because I was worried about our daughter's safety." Vincent read entries aloud, dates and descriptions of arguments, times I supposedly forgot to pick up Hannah from school, days when I allegedly stayed in bed all day because of depression, moments when I lost my temper over small things. Some of these incidents had a grain of truth twisted beyond recognition. Yes, I was late picking up Hannah once because my car broke down. Yes. I stayed in bed one Saturday when I had the flu. Yes, I got frustrated sometimes because raising a child and running a business is hard. But Gregory's journal made everything sound sinister, made me sound unstable and neglectful. And the worst part? It looked so official, so carefully documented. The judge kept writing notes while Vincent read from it. Benjamin tried to challenge the journal during cross-examination. "Mr. Bennett, isn't it convenient that you just happened to keep detailed notes for over a year before filing for divorce?" "I kept notes because I was concerned," Gregory said calmly. "I hoped things would improve, but they didn't. Eventually, I realized I needed documentation to protect my daughter." He sounded so reasonable, so caring. I almost believed him myself. That evening, I had my supervised visit with Hannah. The court had ordered these visits while the trial was ongoing. A woman named Mrs. Rodriguez sat on a park bench watching us like I might hurt my own child at any moment. Hannah and I sat on the swings together. She was unusually quiet. "Baby, what's wrong?" I asked. "Kids at school are talking," she said softly. "They say their parents heard about the trial. They say you're a bad mum." My heart broke into even smaller pieces. "Hannah, look at me. I'm not a bad mum. Your father is confused right now, but none of what he's saying is true." "I know, Mommy," she said. "I know you're a good mum. I see things." Something about the way she said that made me pause. "What do you mean, you see things?" Hannah looked over at Mrs. Rodriguez, then back at me. "Can I tell you a secret?" "Of course, baby." "You can tell me anything." She pulled her old tablet out of her backpack. The screen was cracked, and half the time it didn't turn on. I'd planned to replace it for her birthday. "This still works a little bit," Hannah whispered. "The camera works. I've been recording stuff." "Recording what?" "Daddy. When he comes to the old house. He doesn't know I'm there sometimes." My pulse quickened. "Hannah, what did you record?" She looked scared. "Daddy with a lady. They kiss and stuff. And they talk about you. They say mean things. They talk about the trial and the lies." My hands started shaking. "Hannah, this is very important. Do you still have those videos?" She nodded. "They're saved on here. I have 3 videos. But Mommy, I'm scared. What if Daddy finds out I recorded him?" I pulled her close and hugged her tight. "He won't find out. You're so smart and so brave. Can you keep that tablet safe? Don't tell anyone else about it, okay?" "Okay, Mommy." Mrs. Rodriguez called out that our visit time was up. I kissed Hannah goodbye and watched her walk to Gregory's car. He was waiting across the parking lot. If he only knew what his daughter had been recording. I drove straight to Benjamin's office, my heart pounding. He was leaving for the day, but when he saw my face, he invited me back inside. Hannah has videos, I told him breathlessly. Videos of Gregory with another woman. Videos of them talking about the trial. Benjamin's eyes widened. Are you serious? When did she record these? I don't know exactly. Recently, I think. She said they talk about lies and the trial. Benjamin, this could be evidence. He sat down heavily in his chair. This could change everything, but we need to be careful. Videos recorded by a minor without consent, there could be legal issues with admissibility. Can we at least look at them? See what's on there? Absolutely. Bring the tablet to court tomorrow. Don't tell Hannah to record anything else, just bring what she already has. I left his office feeling hope for the first time in weeks. Maybe Hannah had captured something that would expose Gregory's lies. Maybe we had a chance after all. But the next morning, everything fell apart before I could even mention the videos. Judge Whitmore announced she was ready to make her decision. The trial had gone on long enough. She'd heard enough testimony. She would render her verdict today. Benjamin tried to object, tried to say we had new evidence to present, but the judge silenced him. Mr. Right, I've been more than patient with this case. Both sides have presented their arguments extensively. I'm prepared to rule. My stomach dropped. We were out of time. Judge Whitmore reviewed her notes one final time. Then she began speaking, and every word was a nightmare. Based on the substantial evidence presented, including expert psychological testimony, documented financial irresponsibility, and Mr. Bennett's detailed records of concerning behaviour, this court has serious doubts about Ms. Bennett's current ability to provide stable primary care for the minor child. No. No, no, no. The court recognises that Ms. Bennett loves her daughter. However, love alone is insufficient when a parent demonstrates signs of emotional instability and poor judgment that could negatively impact a child's development. I couldn't breathe. The room started spinning. Therefore, this court is prepared to grant full custody to Mr. Gregory Bennett with limited supervised visitation rights for Ms. Bennett, pending completion of court-ordered therapy and parenting classes. Additionally, regarding the division of marital assets, wait! Stop! Please stop! Every head in the courtroom turned toward the doors. They burst open with a bang. Hannah ran down the aisle, her tablet clutched in both hands, her face flushed and determined. "Please, Your Honor," Hannah shouted. "You have to see this. They're lying. Daddy and the doctor lady are lying about my mommy." The bailiff moved to grab her, but Judge Whitmore held up her hand. The entire courtroom went silent. The judge stared at Hannah with a mixture of surprise and curiosity. "Young lady, you should not be in this courtroom," Judge Whitmore said sternly. "I know, but I have proof." Hannah held up her tablet. "I recorded them. I recorded Daddy and Dr. Fletcher. They're lying about everything. Please, you have to watch it before you take me away from my mommy." Gregory's face went completely white. Dr. Fletcher, who'd been sitting in the back of the courtroom, stood up quickly and started moving toward the exit. "Bailiff, don't let that woman leave," Judge Whitmore commanded. Then she looked at Hannah. "Approach the bench, child. Let's see what you have." Hannah walked toward the judge on shaking legs. I wanted to run to her, to hold her, but Benjamin grabbed my arm and kept me in my seat. Gregory looked like he might be sick. Vincent Palmer started whispering urgently to him, but Gregory just stared at Hannah with pure panic in his eyes. Dr. Fletcher tried to blend into the crowd near the door, but the bailiff blocked her path. She stood there frozen, her face pale and sweaty. Judge Whitmore leaned down from her bench. "Young lady, what's your name?" "Hannah Bennett, Your Honor. I'm their daughter." Hannah's voice trembled, but she didn't cry. She was being so brave. "And what do you have on that tablet, Hannah?" "Videos of my daddy and Dr. Fletcher. They don't know I recorded them. My tablet looks broken, but the camera still works. They were at our old house talking about the trial and about lying about my mommy." Vincent Palmer jumped to his feet. Your Honour, this is highly inappropriate. A child cannot simply interrupt court proceedings with inadmissible evidence. These alleged videos were recorded without consent, possibly illegally. I move to have this entire disruption stricken from the record. Benjamin stood up quickly. Your Honour, if this child has evidence of fraud and perjury committed in this very courtroom, the court has an obligation to review it. The integrity of these proceedings is at stake. Judge Whitmore looked between the lawyers, then at Hannah, then at Gregory and Dr. Fletcher. I could see her mind working. She'd been a judge for decades. She knew something important was happening. I'm going to allow it, she said finally. Bailiff, please connect that tablet to the courtroom display. I want everyone to see what's on there. Vincent Palmer exploded. Your Honour, I must object in the strongest possible terms. This is a violation of my client's rights. These videos, if they even exist, were obtained through… Mr. Palmer, sit down, Judge Whitmore said sharply. If your client and his witness have nothing to hide, then there's no problem. If they do have something to hide, well, I want to know about it. Now. The bailiff took Hannah's tablet and worked on connecting it to the large screen at the front of the courtroom. It took a few minutes because the tablet was old and damaged. Those minutes felt like hours. I kept staring at Gregory. He looked like he wanted to run. Dr. Fletcher was already crying quietly. Finally, the screen flickered to life. The bailiff found the video files. There were 3 of them, just like Hannah said. He clicked on the first one. The video was shaky and the angle was weird, like the tablet was propped up somewhere and partially hidden. But the image was clear enough. It showed our old living room, the one Gregory and I had shared for years. The date stamp in the corner said it was from 6 weeks ago. Gregory walked into frame. Then Dr. Fletcher followed him. They were laughing about something. They sat down on the couch together very close. Too close. Then Gregory leaned over and kissed her. Not a friendly kiss. A long, passionate kiss between people who'd done this many times before. I heard gasps around the courtroom. My own breathing stopped. Seeing it was different than knowing it. Seeing my husband kissing another woman on our couch made something inside me break all over again. When they stopped kissing, Dr. Fletcher leaned against Gregory. I can't believe we've been sneaking around for almost a year now. Your wife still doesn't suspect anything. Gregory laughed. Audrey's too trusting. Too naive. She believed every excuse I gave about working late. She never questioned a single thing. When do you think you started falling out of love with her? Dr. Fletcher asked. I don't know if I ever really loved her. Gregory said casually. Like our entire marriage meant nothing. I married her because it seemed like the right thing to do. But I've been miserable for years. At least now I get to escape and take everything with me. The courtroom was completely silent except for the video. Everyone watched in shock. Dr. Fletcher traced her finger along Gregory's arm. So, the plan is definitely working. The fake evaluation report I wrote? Perfectly. The judge believes every word you said. That's the beauty of expert witnesses. Nobody questions them. I was nervous testifying, Dr. Fletcher admitted. That whole report is completely made up. I never evaluated Audrey at all. I've never even spoken to her. If anyone actually checks my records… They won't, Gregory interrupted confidently. Judges don't have time to verify every detail. You sounded professional. You have the credentials. That's all that matters. Dr. Fletcher smiled and kissed him again. The fake text messages you created were genius. How did you even do that? Simple software I found online. Cost me $200. I created fake conversations from Audrey's phone number. Made it look like she was planning to hide money and having an affair. The tech stuff is easier than people think. And the journal you've been keeping? The one where you document all her supposed problems? Gregory pulled out the notebook and waved it. 14 months of creative writing. I made up half of these incidents. The other half are real things that happened but twisted to make her look bad. Like that time she was late picking up Hannah because her car broke down. In my journal, it's because she forgot about Hannah completely. Neglectful parenting. They both laughed. Actually laughed about destroying me. Vincent says the journal is our strongest evidence, Gregory continued. It makes everything look documented and official. The judge keeps referencing it. Once you get full custody and all the marital assets, what happens to Hannah? Dr. Fletcher asked. I mean, you're not really interested in being a full-time father, right? Gregory shrugged. We'll ship her off to boarding school or have my mother take her most of the time. The custody fight isn't really about wanting Hannah. It's about making sure Audrey gets nothing. No daughter, no money, no house, no car. If I let Audrey have custody, I'd owe child support. This way, she owes me. She'll be completely destroyed. Won't Hannah be upset? Kids are resilient. She'll adjust. And honestly, I never really wanted to be a father anyway. That was Audrey's dream, not mine. I just went along with it. Dr. Fletcher snuggled closer to him. You know what I love about you. You're ruthless. You see what you want and you take it, no matter who gets hurt. That's how you succeed in life, Gregory said. Audrey wasted her whole life being devoted to me and Hannah. She gave up everything for us, which makes her the perfect victim. She has no career, no money of her own, no real independence. When I'm done with her, she'll have absolutely nothing. She'll probably end up living with her elderly mother in some tiny apartment, broken and alone. And we'll be together, Dr. Fletcher said, kissing him again. Free and rich and happy. Exactly. This divorce is my ticket to freedom. Freedom from responsibility, from a family I never really wanted, from a wife who bored me, and I get to keep all my money while doing it. The video ended. Nobody in the courtroom moved. Nobody spoke. The silence was deafening. I sat there with tears streaming down my face, but they weren't tears of sadness anymore. They were tears of rage and relief. Everyone had just seen the truth. Every single person had witnessed Gregory and Dr. Fletcher confessing to everything. Judge Whitmore's face had turned dark red. Her hands gripped her gavel so tightly her knuckles were white. I'd never seen someone look so angry. Bailiff, the judge said, her voice shaking with fury, arrest Mr. Gregory Bennett and Dr. Caroline Fletcher immediately. They are not to leave this building. Call the police. I want them both in custody right now. Gregory jumped up from his seat and tried to run toward the exit, but the bailiff was faster. He grabbed Gregory's arm and forced him back down. Don't make this worse, sir. Dr. Fletcher collapsed into her chair, sobbing. I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. He convinced me. He said it would be okay. He said, I don't want to hear it, Judge Whitmore snapped. You committed perjury in my courtroom. You lied under oath. You helped orchestrate a fraud to destroy an innocent woman and separate a mother from her child. Sorry doesn't even begin to cover what you've done. Vincent Palmer looked like he might faint. Your Honor, I had no knowledge of any of this. I was told the evidence was legitimate. I would never knowingly. We'll investigate your involvement, Mr. Palmer. If I find out you knew anything about this conspiracy, you'll face consequences too. For now, sit down and be quiet. Judge Whitmore turned to Hannah, and her expression softened. Young lady, you are one of the bravest children I've ever seen. What you did today took incredible courage. You may have just saved your mother's life. Come here. Hannah walked closer to the bench. The judge reached down and gently touched her hand. How did you know to record them? The judge asked gently. Hannah's voice was small but clear. I heard Daddy on the phone sometimes saying mean things about Mommy. I didn't understand all the words, but I knew he was being mean. So I started hiding when he came to the house. My tablet looks broken, but the camera still works if you know how to use it right. I recorded them 3 times. This video was the best one. You carried this secret for how long? 2 months. I wanted to tell Mommy, but I was scared Daddy would find out. I was waiting for the right time. Judge Whitmore nodded slowly. You did exactly the right thing. You should be very proud of yourself. Hannah suddenly broke away and ran to me. I stood up and caught her in my arms, holding her so tight. She started crying finally, letting out all the fear and stress she'd been carrying. I'm so sorry, Mommy, she sobbed into my shoulder. I should have told you sooner. No, baby, no. You were perfect. You saved us. You saved us both. The courtroom slowly started to return to order, though nothing would ever really be the same after what everyone had just witnessed. Police officers arrived within minutes and placed handcuffs on both Gregory and Dr. Fletcher. Gregory wouldn't look at me. He stared at the floor, his face red with shame and anger. Dr. Fletcher continued sobbing, mascara running down her cheeks in black streaks. Judge Whitmore waited until both of them were secured before speaking again. Her voice was ice cold. In 30 years on this bench, I have never seen such a calculated, cruel conspiracy. Mr. Bennett, you didn't just lie to this court. You created an elaborate scheme to destroy your wife's reputation, steal your daughter's mother, and commit multiple felonies in the process. And Dr. Fletcher, you violated every ethical standard of your profession. You betrayed the trust this court places in expert witnesses. She turned to me, and her expression changed completely. Ms. Bennett, I owe you an apology. This court was deceived by false evidence and perjured testimony. I nearly made a decision that would have caused irreparable harm to you and your daughter based on lies. I couldn't speak. I just nodded, still holding Hannah close. The petition for divorce and custody filed by Mr. Bennett is hereby dismissed with prejudice. Ms. Bennett, you retain full custody of your daughter. Furthermore, I'm issuing an emergency order freezing all of Mr. Bennett's assets and granting you immediate access to all marital funds. We'll sort out the actual division of assets later. But you should not suffer financially while this criminal case proceeds. Benjamin stood up, looking happier than I'd ever seen him. Thank you, Your Honor. My client has been living in poverty while Mr. Bennett stole their savings. This is the right decision. Additionally, Judge Whitmore continued, I'm referring both Mr. Bennett and Dr. Fletcher to the District Attorney for criminal prosecution. The charges should include fraud, perjury, conspiracy, theft, and anything else the DA sees fit. I'm also referring Dr. Fletcher to the State Licensing Board. She should never practice psychology again. Dr. Fletcher wailed at that, but nobody cared. She'd made her choices. The bailiff led Gregory and Dr. Fletcher out of the courtroom. As Gregory passed my table, he finally looked at me. The coldness was gone. Now he just looked pathetic and scared. Good. He should be scared. After they were gone, Judge Whitmore called Hannah back to the bench. Young lady, I want to make sure you understand something. What your father did was wrong. Very wrong. But that's not your fault. You did nothing wrong by recording those videos. You protected your mother. You told the truth. Those are good things. Don't ever feel guilty about this. I don't feel guilty, Hannah said quietly. I feel sad that my daddy is a bad person, but I'm glad my mommy is safe. That's a very mature way to think about it. You're a remarkable child. The hearing ended shortly after that. Benjamin gathered his papers, grinning from ear to ear. We won. Against all odds, we actually won. I still couldn't quite believe it. Just an hour ago, I was about to lose everything. Now Gregory was in handcuffs and I had my daughter and my life back. We walked out of the courthouse into bright afternoon sunshine. Reporters were already gathering, having heard about the dramatic courtroom scene. They shouted questions at us, but Benjamin waved them away. My client has no statement at this time. We're just grateful that justice was served. We got into Benjamin's car and he drove us back to my small apartment. During the drive, he explained what would happen next. The criminal trials will take months. Gregory and Dr. Fletcher will likely both go to prison. You'll eventually receive restitution for the money he stole, plus damages. This is going to be a long process, but the hard part is over. What about Vincent Palmer? I asked. Did he know? Hard to say. The state bar will investigate. Even if he didn't know about the fraud, he should have verified his evidence better. He'll face consequences either way. At home, Hannah and I collapsed on the couch together. We were both exhausted. The adrenaline was wearing off and reality was sinking in. We'd actually survived. We'd actually won. Mommy, Hannah said softly, are you mad at me for not telling you about the videos sooner? No, baby, not even a little bit. You were scared. That makes sense. And you knew exactly when to use them. Your timing was perfect. I almost didn't go to the courthouse today. I was too scared. But then I heard Grandma on the phone talking about how you might lose custody, and I knew I had to do something. My mother. I needed to call her and tell her what happened. She'd been so worried. Over the next few days, the story exploded in the local news. "Daughter saves mother with secret recording" was the headline everywhere. Reporters wanted to interview us, but I said no to most of them. We needed privacy to heal. The district attorney moved quickly. Gregory and Dr. Fletcher were charged with multiple felonies. Their bail was set high. Gregory's family posted his bail after a week, but Dr. Fletcher stayed in jail. Nobody wanted to help her. Benjamin worked with the bank to restore my access to our accounts. I discovered Gregory had hidden even more money than I thought. Over $80,000 in total. He'd been planning this for a long time. I paid Benjamin his fees, paid back my mother, and finally had money for groceries and bills again. The relief was overwhelming. For months, I'd been drowning financially. Now I could breathe. Hannah's school called to check on her. The story had spread among the parents and kids. The principal wanted to make sure Hannah felt supported. I appreciated that. Some of the other parents who'd believed the rumours about me being a bad mother called to apologise. I accepted their apologies but didn't forget how quickly they'd turned against me. The criminal trials happened over the next several months. I attended every single day, sitting in the gallery with Benjamin beside me. I wanted to watch Gregory face consequences for what he'd done. The prosecution built a strong case. They presented the video evidence, of course, but they also brought in experts who testified about the fake text messages and showed how Gregory had systematically drained our bank accounts. They called witnesses who said Gregory had bragged about his plan to friends. One witness, a co-worker of Gregory's, testified that Gregory had laughed while explaining how he was gaming the system to destroy me. Another witness, a bartender, remembered Gregory getting drunk and talking about how stupid I was for trusting him. Gregory's lawyer tried to argue that the video was taken without consent and shouldn't be allowed. But the judge ruled that a child recording conversations in her own home wasn't illegal. The lawyer then tried to claim Gregory had some kind of mental breakdown and wasn't thinking clearly. But the video showed him calm and logical while planning his scheme. That argument failed. Dr. Fletcher's trial was even worse for her. The prosecution showed how she'd written a completely fake psychological evaluation without ever meeting me. They brought in her other patients who testified that she seemed distracted and unprofessional. The state psychology board testified that she'd violated every ethical rule in their book. Dr. Fletcher cried throughout her trial, claiming she only helped Gregory because she loved him and he'd convinced her I was actually a bad mother. But the video showed her laughing about the conspiracy. Nobody believed her tears. Both trials ended with guilty verdicts. The sentencing hearings came next. Judge Whitmore personally attended Gregory's sentencing. She gave a harsh speech about how he'd betrayed his own family and tried to destroy an innocent woman's life just to avoid his responsibilities. Gregory was sentenced to 6 years in prison for fraud, perjury, conspiracy, and theft. He was also ordered to pay me back every penny he stole, plus $200,000 in damages for emotional distress. Gregory's face crumbled when he heard the sentence. He finally understood the full weight of what he'd done. He looked back at me one last time before being led away. I felt nothing watching him go. The man I'd loved never really existed. Dr. Fletcher received 5 years in prison. Her psychology license was permanently revoked. She was also ordered to pay me $100,000 in damages. After both sentencings, I stood outside the courthouse with Hannah and Benjamin. Reporters asked how I felt. "I feel relieved that justice was served," I said honestly. "But mostly I feel grateful for my daughter's courage and grateful for the chance to rebuild our lives." Hannah squeezed my hand. A reporter asked if she had anything to say. I just want other kids to know that if grown-ups are doing bad things, it's okay to ask for help, Hannah said. I was really scared, but I knew my mommy needed someone to tell the truth. People applauded. Some were crying. Our story had touched a lot of people. Life slowly returned to normal over the following year. I used the restitution money to invest in my catering business. I rented a commercial kitchen space and hired 2 assistants. Orders poured in from people who wanted to support me. Eventually, I opened a small restaurant. I named it Hannah's Kitchen, after the brave daughter who saved my life. The grand opening was packed with friends, supporters and people who'd followed our story. Hannah thrived. She joined art club at school and made new friends. She seemed happier and more confident. The trauma of everything we'd been through was fading. We moved into a modest house with a backyard where Hannah could play. I decorated it exactly how I wanted, with bright colours and photos of just the 2 of us. It was our space, our fresh start. Gregory remained in prison. He tried writing letters to Hannah, but she threw them away after reading one. She wasn't ready to forgive him. Maybe she never would be. That was her choice. Dr. Fletcher's family disowned her after the trial. She lost everything. I felt no sympathy. She'd made her choices. One evening about a year after the trial, Hannah and I sat on our couch watching a movie together. She looked up at me with those serious eyes. "Mommy, are you happy now?" I thought about it carefully. "Yes, baby, I really am. We've been through something terrible, but we survived. We're stronger now, and we have each other." "We're a good team," Hannah said. "The best team," I agreed, hugging her close. That night, as I tucked Hannah into bed, she held her old broken tablet on her nightstand. We'd kept it as a reminder of her courage. "Mommy, I'm glad everything turned out okay." "Me too, sweetheart, me too." I turned off the light and stood in the doorway watching my daughter sleep peacefully. We'd come so far from that terrible day when Gregory handed me divorce papers. We'd survived betrayal, lies, and nearly lost everything. But we hadn't lost. We'd won. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. But tonight, we were both safe, loved, and finally at peace. And that was enough.